Radio Free Skaro!
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Radio Free Skaro, episode number 973. I am Stephen in Edmonton.
Erika in Edmonton.
And Deb in Philadelphia.
Yeah, we're doing it differently this week, kids, with 33% of Verity here as...
Math. It's too early in the morning for that kind of math.
Listen, I had to think about that. Thank you for having an even number to be easily divisible. Because of recording shenanigans, I couldn't do it with Chris today, and Warren is off in WorldCon at Glasgow, which you'll hear because he talked to a noted author and someone who started his career writing Doctor Who on TV, so therefore he is right for fodder on this podcast. Ben Aaronovitch is on this podcast later on.
I thought you were going to say Liz Miles.
No, Liz and Paul will most likely be, Paul Cornell will most likely be on next week's episode. So there's a little teaser there too, which of course Goth Opera has just come out from Big Finish, which Liz adapted from Paul's original book from 1994. So I imagine the file is in my Dropbox that Warren has sent me, and I imagine that is the thrust of the conversation, but we'll find out next week.
Yeah. Got to pump up her girl,
Right? I know. I remember, Deb, in fact, I have a photo of it because when you and Erika and Liz, I think, cornered Matt Fitton from Big Finish.
Oh my God, I remember
in the
that.
lobby
I remember
at Galley one year. I don't remember what year it was, 2018 maybe or something.
Where are the women, Matt? Where are the women?
Where are the women? And you were sort of bigging up Liz's case, and I took a photo mostly to, I would like to say commemorate the fact, but let's face it, I want it as proof. That listen, I'm going to hold you to this if it needs to. And now Liz is like one of the most celebrated authors on the Big Finish roll call. So
I like to think she's one of the most celebrated authors because I love her work. Although, I think we have to mention the Big Finish is having a bit of a moment right now. They're struggling with their new website.
Yeah, the website transition is not going as well as they would have liked.
It's not been smooth.
Oh,
and I know
IT stuff is tricky.
Very tricky.
Right? And that's a big platform to shift. You figure with all the digital content and all the subscribers and everything. So I really feel poorly for them right now. I know Jason Hagellery just posted something on Facebook, I believe, just explaining or linked it to Facebook. It was on the Big Finish site, which is basically like, we're really sorry and we're really trying. Here's some workarounds. I have yet to be able to log in, but I'm not going to get too pressed about it because my son is a software developer, so like there's like little pains in my heart, like because I know some of the projects he's been involved in that have hit critical bugs. So I'm going to be patient and know that they will have everything back up when they need, as soon as they work through this.
It's bad timing for me because I just hit a point where I change my podcast lists all the time, but I actually got to the point where I listened to so many that I caught up on my new to me podcast episodes, and I was like, oh, it's time I can switch back over to Big Finish for a while.
Right.
Maybe not. But I think I actually have a couple that I haven't listened to yet that are already on my phone. So I won't be completely without the mellifluous tones of those lovely Big Finish actors, but
yeah, it is. It's a shame because I had a couple that I had purchased and were sort of saving for road trips, which I'm going on a big road trip next week. And I don't know that they'll be available by then. But again, we love Big Finish at Verity, so we tend to be very forgiving of anything that they're going through. So good luck, guys. Fingers crossed you get these bugs worked out soon.
Deb, if the Big Finish thing doesn't work out before your road trip, you could always give another listen to the Daleks Master Plan, which is probably 6 hours worth of really...
I mean, my mom and I listened to Daleks Master Plan when I was moving here. So.
I remember that. Deb listened to it to write an article about it in a book several years ago, and so therefore it's
I should probably, we talk about this a lot, about how things hit you at different points in your life.
Yeah.
And I am willing to give media another chance. I am a more mature individual right now.
Right.
I am kind of more grounded in classic Who, even more so than I was back then. And I'm thinking, maybe my opinion will change. Not sure if it will.
Right.
But there are aspects of the Daleks Master Plan that I really liked, and there are aspects that I think were crap. But who knows? Maybe.
That's a big time investment to just check it and see.
Well, we're driving my daughter back to college. It's about a 10-hour drive.
See, that's not even long enough.
That's perfect. You can digest.
But I have to come home,
right.
So it's 10 hours
gotcha,
each
gotcha.
way.
Oh, okay, then you're fine.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I'm just about caught up in my Audible book, so maybe we'll see. Let's face it, I'm not going to, but it's
It's nice to think about such things, though, isn't it?
It is. But I also think, I have it on CD, and I ripped it to iTunes about 5 computers ago.
Right.
4 laptops ago. So I don't even know if I have access to it anymore, because once iTunes went defunct and now it's whatever it is, like Apple Music, so much stuff just got lost into the ether.
I know.
Could I even find it? I don't know. I just was shanked by Apple with all this content. And I don't know whether I don't even know how I can listen to cars don't have CDs anymore.
It's true.
Right. It's like dead media. How do my laptop doesn't have a CD drive.
No, I
rip it.
I bought hard drives, 2 of them, in fact, specifically to rip things. I have 2 hard drives because one of them I set permanently to PAL, or whatever region it is for Blu-rays in the UK, so that I could buy UK Blu-rays and DVDs and just immediately rip them so I can actually watch them. And the other one I leave in place for North America. That's
I should send you all of my CDs, and then you can just you could hold the physical media,
right?
And then you could rip it and send it back to me. That's not copyright infringement or anything.
No, you're
right?
just making copies for yourself.
For my own personal use.
Yeah,
exactly.
That's my reasoning for it.
So that's why I can't listen to the Daleks Master Plan, is I no longer have access to a digital copy of it.
Well, Deb, you're in luck.
Off the hook.
Oh, no.
Because several months, maybe even years ago, I don't know, it was probably an early pandemic thing that what I wanted to do, and this is, again, copyright hounds, this is for my own personal enjoyment, is that I took I bought all the audiobook versions with narration for the missing episodes, and then got the mostly the loose canon reconstructions or whoever else was doing it, and married and matched them up so that I could watch the recons, but also have the audiobook narration for the scenes where stuff wasn't happening and stuff. And so all those exist on my hard drive. And so that's a better way to watch Daleks Master Plan.
And he has spent a lot of time doing that. That was a project that took some time, but it paid dividends, because now, I think you did it. We had already done some of them already on Lazy Doctor Who, but we were able to watch a couple, I think, for the
literally
podcast.
The Space Pirates, I think, was probably the only one.
Maybe that's why I love the Space Pirates so much, because it was great to experience it that way. I'm not being silly, by the way. I genuinely love the Space Pilots.
And wonderful thing I have ever heard in my life. I can see you very joyfully doing that project.
I loved it. Stephen. I was sad when I was almost. I mean, the official DVD and Blu-ray releases of these missing episodes come out, and they have the animated version and then the black and white animated version. But then they also do a brand new telesnap reconstruction, and I almost feel like, I guess I don't need mine anymore. Feel a little sad about
yours, I'm sure, is created with love. And every time you experience this, a little bit of that love will come back to you.
So much. Well, Deb, I mean, let's face it. Sometimes I arrange podcasts just as excuses to bring people on who I haven't had a chance to talk to in a while. So, Deb, how are you doing? How is the world of Doctor Who going in your mind? Because we haven't had you on the show in a while.
It's been a kind of a quiet summer. I mean, I'm really excited about the spinoff. I think that's going to be. I'm really excited to see what they do with that, because the last spinoff that we've had has been a long, long time ago.
It was Class,
so
2016.
Wow.
Which I still have bad feelings about class. So I'm excited to see what they're going to do with that under the umbrella, the Big Wolf umbrella. And I know Jane Tranter just did an interview who was very, very positive about her relationship with Disney. So, you know, I have high hopes, and I know Russell really wants to push this idea of making this an extended universe. So I'm looking forward to that. So that news was exciting to see. I was a little disappointed because D23 just happened as we're recording this. I guess the final night was yesterday, or the big announcements were yesterday, and they're doing they announced a new land in Magic Kingdom called Villains, but they didn't mention the Master. Like, I think the Master would fit right in there. Like, I know everybody's like, ooh, Daleks, ooh, Cybermen. I'm like, no, like, you really need like the Master walking around like as a face character. I think that would be amazing. But it's been kind of, other than that, it's been kind of a quiet summer. Like, there hasn't been the big, I mean, after San Diego Comic-Con, there hasn't been much happening. And even that was just kind of more of the same. But last year was so much fun. It was just so much fun. I just felt that has kind of carried me through the summer. Like, I left with a good taste in my mouth. Let's put it that way. When Doctor Who was over, I know everybody was, oh, Sutek. But I personally loved it. I liked the finale. I'm one of the few people on Verity that didn't have a little bit of anger moment.
Right.
But again, I am in my YOLO phrase of Doctor Who. So, like, do no harm, and as long as you're good there, I'm fine. I'm fine, and I'm just really looking forward to the next season.
They did have Doctor Who did have a small presence at D23. This D23 is
TARDIS.
They basically the same setup that I think was at Comic-Con. I think just made its way down up the coast to Anaheim. D23 is like this big Disney shareholder meeting, let's face it, where I think they filled like the pond, the coldest hockey rink in North America.
Wow.
I think they were in it. I think that was or maybe it's just the convention center. It's big. I can tell from the videos, but they announced a whole bunch of Marvel projects on Friday, and then a whole bunch of stuff on Saturday, and Doctor Who was there in terms of the
physical
little booth,
presence.
with the two costumes and the TARDIS and stuff like that, but nothing else. Apart from that, I think all the announcements that were done at Comic-Con, that being the spin-off, of course.
Which makes sense.
That makes sense, considering, Disney considers Doctor Who a quote-unquote low-budget show, according to, I don't know, leaks or something like that, which, Disney has a lot of their own properties. Of course, they're going to be announcing the Marvel stuff and the things that they are actually spending oodles of money on and making themselves. I think the fact that there was even a TARDIS there is pretty great, because I didn't expect anything. So I'm actually quite heartened by the appearance of a single TARDIS in two costumes. Like, that's so much more than I thought it would be. Because like you said, it's basically a shareholders meeting that has, sort of been co-opted for more media and fan, intake and stuff. But yeah, I feel like the shareholders at Disney kind of don't care about Doctor Who, and with good reason. Like, from that perspective, it really does not, it's not on their balance books in a place that is important to them financially.
Also, because I keep mentioning about Bluey, the kids show.
I don't know why you've taken against Bluey.
No, I haven't taken against Bluey, just because it's unique, because Disney doesn't make Bluey. It distributes Bluey. I didn't know that at the time. And there wasn't a big Bluey presence, even though you look at the numbers on Disney Plus, and Bluey is big. It's like number one, because kids love Bluey, and you plop a kid in front of Disney Plus all day to watch Bluey, and they're happy. And they didn't really have like a big thing about Bluey, but the stuff that they owned is the stuff that they sort of bigged up. So they didn't. I think they probably didn't have much to do with Doctor Who.
Right.
So.
No, I didn't look really closely at the TARDIS, but I believe it is the same TARDIS that was doing like the promotional appearances at Disney.
Yeah.
And I got to see that. I was in Disney in May, and they brought the TARDIS in. I think it was like the last day that I was there, over to Disney Springs. So I did go over, and I was able to touch it and get a picture. But it was kind of interesting, because it wasn't a big, like, they just stuck it in Disney Springs, which in Disney Springs is the big shopping restaurant area adjacent to the parks.
Right.
So I think there's a hot air balloon you can go, but there's no rides. There's no admission fee to get there. It's like a big shopping and dining plaza. And it just was kind of plunked in Disney Springs.
Right.
And they did have a couple cast members, I guess, kind of lurking around to make sure like nobody bad wolfed it or anything. But, there wasn't a photographer. It wasn't an official like photo op kind of thing. It was just this blue police box. And I just had to wonder, like, I was excited. Like, I immediately went over, stood there, did a little pose, got a picture taken by one of the cast members with my own phone.
Right.
But I had to wonder, like, what just the casual Disney Springs shopper was like, what the heck? Like, what is this thing just kind of standing here?
I feel like that is, in a way, kind of perfect and cool, because when the Doctor shows up on Earth, how many people walk past the TARDIS and go, I wonder what the heck that is? And it's just it's just there. It just gets plumped.
It just lands,
Mm-hmm.
I loving the idea of like, Snow White's understudy or something like that's basically her job when regular Snow White in the park is on her lunch break. She's like, okay, I'm just here making sure that nobody draws on the TARDIS.
I'm the TARDIS Wrangler today.
Yeah. I do want to point out that the official Doctor Who podcast panel from San Diego Comic-Con was released both in podcast form and on YouTube on the official YouTube channel. That's the one that Heather Berbert was at. She got one of the 350 seats or something like that for that exclusive recording. And they basically go through all the episodes of the first season. And just sort of talking about them briefly, but they stop after Rogue. They don't talk about the 2-part finale on the official Doctor Who pod. I looked closely for an edit and I didn't see one, and so I don't know.
Maybe it was a time constraint.
Maybe it was, and maybe they just thought, "Oh no, we've already used up all of our time." But they did have time to read a lot of letters, and fan questions and stuff. So. I might have to ask Heather how much was chopped out of that, because
or did they just avoid it because they knew it was the third rail of the season?
Oh, geez, you haters.
I know, Deb.
Not even taking into account my own opinion, just the fact that opinions were more mixed for the 2-part finale than they were for other episodes, like Rogue, for example.
Right.
That's fair.
That's
Rogue
true.
is beloved universally.
Mm-hmm.
I suppose it is. I should also mention, speaking of LA and that area, Los Angeles has been awarded hosting duties for WorldCon 2026. Next year it's in Seattle. 2 years hence it's in Los Angeles, being run amongst others by our good friend Sean Lyon, who of course has run Gallifrey 1 since its inauguration in 1990. So that's cool. I reckon the next 2 WorldCons will be attending. Well, also I don't know if we've told this, Erika, but what you and I are most likely going to Chicago TARDIS in November.
We have not booked a hotel room or flights yet,
I've
so
booked a hotel.
Oh, did you?
That's cancelable if I need to, but flights and tickets have yet to be purchased. But we might be making our return to there, just so you know. But yeah, LA is going to be. LA is actually in Anaheim. It's the Anaheim Convention Center, is where WorldCon 26 is to be. So
LA Con, the A stands for Anaheim.
The Los Angeles Angels who play in Anaheim, that kind of thing. In a way, I'm kind of glad, because it would feel weird to go to the LAX Marriott, for instance, and have it not be Galley.
Another convention.
Yeah. Dissonance would just be too much.
Yeah. Also, the LAX Marriott is not big enough for a WorldCon. So,
to be fair,
Anaheim is probably better set up for that.
Plus, we have done Galley for years and years and years, and the LAX Marriott, while its home is not very conducive for people who want to, like, say, extend their vacation and do fun things. Whereas Anaheim, you have Disneyland right there. It is, you're not far from the beaches. So I think it was really a smart location to do that. And this is a huge, huge convention with a lot of moving parts, and the fact that you have Gallifrey staffers putting this together or spearheading this, like, gives me such confidence.
Yeah.
Because they have done such an amazing job with another big convention with a lot of moving parts and a lot of international guests. I think they're going to do a great job. Like, part of me just wants to send them like a nice fruit basket or maybe some warm cookies and say, Vio con Dios, because it can get really messy.
Right.
But they've dealt with messy. maybe on a slightly smaller scale. But I think that that team can really pivot and handle the complexity of a convention this size. So I'm not a huge I've only been to one WorldCon, and it wasn't really my style of convention.
Right.
But I'm tempted. I got to say, I'm really kind of tempted just because I have so much faith in those showrunners who have done, or not the showrunners, the con runners who have done Galley, that I think it could probably be a pretty amazing experience. Plus, Anaheim's fun.
And WorldCon's so different from year to year. Like
it really is.
Yeah, it's not. It's literally not the same convention twice.
I know. I'd be willing to give it another try, knowing that we have some really competent con runners.
Mm-hmm. And
because it is really a crapshoot every year, isn't it?
It kind of is. But like Ronald D. Moore is one of the guests of honor. Who of course he did them that Battlestar Galactica show that everyone loved. But he also did all the Klingon. He also did a lot of Deep Space Nine, which of course is my favorite Star Trek. Dr. Anita Sengupta is going to be there as well. She's been on. She's been on the show. Talking about Doctor Who. So and Ursula Vernon. I'm looking at the Doctor Who connections. You understand for
Ursula Vernon. I think likes Doctor Who. I don't think she's officially connected to it.
No, she's not. But we know of her work. So. Anyway, that's happening August 27th to 31st, 2026 in at the Anaheim Convention Center. So well done, LA. I want to mention. I
have to wonder, is that going to be in when is the 2026 World Cup in the United States? Because that's going to be.
I think it's in July or something, isn't
July?
It? Yeah, I want to say
sure.
July. We don't. Erica's fulfilling the role of Chris and being the one Googling. Chris sometimes I will throw to Warren so he and I can banter while Chris looks up facts and stuff.
June 11th to July 19th.
There we are.
Okay, so there is going to be no big international
overlap.
like not that the WorldCon and the World Cup are going to have much of an overlap, but it is like two big sort of major events.
And almost the same if you take out the last two letters. So
just a couple letters
away.
Yeah.
Listeners right now are like, sports that aren't hockey? What's happening here on RFS?
You start going 2026 World C, and then what's autocomplete going to do? WorldCon or World Cup? Who knows? Can I bore you two, and indeed the listeners, with details of a TV series that I watched the first episode of this past week? I ask only so that I can bore you.
What if we said no?
I would continue
Really?
on. I'm afraid I would continue on because it's amazing. I came across copies. I think it came out on DVD a while ago of 1975. So BBC. So there you go. It's right up my alley already.
Story checks out.
Of a show called The Legend of Robin Hood. I've seen the odd clip of it here and there because Paul Darrow, he of Avon fame, plays the Sheriff of Nottingham in it.
Okay, now that is dream casting.
Perfect
right
casting.
there. Wow.
Right? And so, well, naturally, I'm intrigued by it. So I watched the first episode. It's, of course, a mix of film and videotape. So tick that box as well. Little did I know how many cast members in this would float my boat. So we already mentioned Paul Darrow. Then I mentioned Robin Hood is played by Martin Cooper, who played Arak in Terminus.
Yeah, of course.
It took me a few minutes to pin who that was. Amazingly, John Abineri is in this. Because John Abineri was in my favorite telling of Robin Hood, Robin of Sherwood. He played Herne the Hunter in that. But he's in this as someone else. Diane Keane, who plays Laura in The Sandbaggers, plays Maid Marian.
That's awesome.
That took me a few minutes to, yeah. There is what's it called? Who's his name? William Marlowe, who was Mailer in The Mind of Evil, also plays Guy of Gisborne. That one I immediately pegged.
Wow.
There is.
Do you have like a little notebook when you watch TV? Like when you
watch?
It's
in his head.
In my head, Deb. This is my sport. Playing the Prince Regent, I think probably Prince John, is David Dixon, who would go on to play Ford Prefect in the TV version of Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. And let me tell you, the scene between him as the Prince Regent and Paul Darrow as Sheriff of Nottingham is riddled with gay subtext. It is amazing to watch. And I can't help but think that this was something worked out by the actors during the course of that scene to sort of put that in there, because they don't appear together again in that episode.
Wow.
And it's amazing. So track it down. It's produced by George Galaccio, who of course was worked on a lot of 1970s Doctor Who. Margot Hayhoe was like the floor director. I actually tagged her on Facebook when I talked about it, and she says it was a delight. So people behind the scenes.
So is this available for people to find someplace? Not really.
This is basically a public call to BritBox and the BBC iPlayer to put this show on iPlayer and BritBox, because it needs to be appreciated again 50 years after its original broadcast. So Legend of Robin Hood, if you have a DVD, find it. Contact your local representative to get it on BritBox. An iPlayer, because it's great.
Now that the BBC is like wiping things left and right, like maybe they have room, like they can pull this out.
I guess so. There's hard drive space right now. You don't have with all the
anything
stuff
that had Hugh Edwards in it, you can remove that, and you can put this on instead.
Hugh Edwards not appearing in The Legend of Robin Hood from 1975, so it's perfectly safe.
There you go.
Keenly recommended. What else is happening? And not a lot. Thankfully, it's a lighter week and stuff. But there is on August 17th, there is a Doctor Who Cyberman episode screening at Riverside Studios with Gav Rymil. He does Terry Nation Army videos and other videos as well on the Dalek 6388 YouTube page. And James Goss, who's written several different Doctor Who books. They are presenting 3 Doctor Who episodes of Cyberman: the 10th Planet episode 2, Moonbase episode 4, and the Wheel in Space part 6 on August 17th, with a little bit of discussion afterwards, just to show the progression of Cybermen essentially throughout the 1960s. So
it's actually kind of an interesting episode selection, but also like the idea of a Q&A after specific episodes and doing that progression, I think is it'd be kind of a cool evening. You know what I mean? Cybermen, I am a Cyberman girly over a Dalek girly when it comes to villains. So to be able to, just to have those roundtable conversations, I think is really cool. But that's my individual nerdery right there. Like, let's talk to the creators of things and sort of peek behind the curtain a little bit. But yeah, interesting episode choices.
It would be nice to live in a place where we could just go to things like this. Wouldn't that be nice?
Come on. You had Rachel Talalay rock up in Edmonton not that long ago.
You know how rare that is?
Yeah, that's what other than the big the Edmonton fan convention. It's not a fan convention, it's a corporate convention that occasionally would have a Doctor Who guest that would do one, on-stage interview. I think Rachel Talalay was by far cooler than that, and B, like the only other thing.
Like what other? I can't think of a perfect alignment of people coming to Edmonton for, like, we don't make many movies here, so it's not like there's still a plaque on a wall in a local restaurant when Brad Pitt visited it during the making of the assassination of Jesse James by the coward Robert Ford, because they shot that in Fort Edmonton.
Oh wow!
Like 20 years ago, and they're still talking about it today. So yeah, we don't get these chances, Deb in Philadelphia. I imagine people come through Philadelphia a lot more frequently than they come through here.
You would be surprised. Like, there really isn't a big Doctor Who presence, period. I mean, we did have David Tennant once come to Philadelphia Comic-Con. But, as far as Comic-Cons go, it's kind of a real low-key one. Like, it doesn't. Now, now I want to Google and see whether what Doctor Who guests we had this past the latest Comic-Con we have here. I haven't gone in a couple years, but it's just not, I don't know. I don't know why people don't like coming to Philadelphia. It's a great city.
I know.
I mean, well,
and honestly,
on the outside, but
the Comic-Con type things are such a different experience from something like this that's happening at Riverside.
I would 3 random screenings of 1960s episodes.
I would so much rather just go to like a slightly smaller thing where people are really hyper focused on something really interesting, like the evolution of Cybermen in the 60s. Like, yes, please.
That's
I'm not
what
even
we need
huge.
to do. We need to buy a rundown sort of art house film theater. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
and just do, like, make it a premier destination for people to come in and just do Q&A, Doctor Who Q&A.
Doctor Who Q&As. That would be, I can think of a couple candidates of theaters in Edmonton that we could convert to that.
For when we win the lottery, because this is not a money-making proposition.
That's true. A reminder
this is for love only.
A reminder to support RFS on Patreon, patreon.com/RadioFreeScaro, so we can turn a local theater into a Doctor Who destination in Edmonton. Thank you.
That you will require at least 2 flights to get to.
Yes, true. There are no
Maybe we should be
flights.
located in Middle America, someplace with a hub. We need a hub.
That's true. Denver United Hub or Minneapolis St. Paul or something like that.
That's right. Like Chicago. We could like hook up a Chicago TARDIS.
Let's do Milwaukee.
Milwaukee, sure.
Milwaukee's good.
Yeah,
like Milwaukee.
And we'll be screening 3 different Cybermen episodes there. As you say, what a great thing! I would just love, like, Riverside Studios, of course, where they shot Doctor Who for a time in the 1960s as well. So, yeah, you're lucky, UK. I mean, I know that America has stolen Doctor Who from you, and we get it a full day earlier than you do. On Disney
Plus. Open that wound up again.
It's the same day, same time. Just happens to be midnight in the UK. But you get events like these, and I think that's cool. And potentially you'll get The Legend of Robin Hood on iPlayer before we get it on BritBox. So
wouldn't that be nice?
Wouldn't it be nice?
Yeah.
Anyway, tickets are on sale. 2:00 is the time of the screening at Riverside Studios. Links in the show notes. RadioFreeScaro.com. You can get your own and go to that, because go for us, because we'd like to go to that sort of thing. So, and Gav Reimel is great. I just listened to him on Something Who podcast, 2-parter, talking about Celestial Toymaker and the Giggle. So, and those are great episodes, and he has great insight. Gav Reimel put together a 55-minute video about the various changes in the script of the Celestial Toymaker, and it's great. Most of it's based off of David Brunt's Doctor Who production diaries, William Hartnell years, because of all the stuff that he's uncovered. I just love uncovering stuff from the 1960s. It's great, like what Simon Guerrier did. Simon Guerrier posted a big thing on social media, and then he converted it to his blog post, talking about this birthday party that Terry Nation threw in August of 1964. And Simon became obsessed with how many people and which people actually went to it. And because Carol Ann Ford mentioned it there's official BBC notation that she went to this party, and probably all the regular cast of Doctor Who was there, and like Roger Moore might have been there.
Wow.
Oh my gosh.
Pre-James Bond, of course. David Whittaker was there potentially. Apparently the pool was in bad shape.
Verity Lambert,
of course, was, they might have actually watched the Reign of Terror Part 1 go out live that night, because it was on a Saturday night. All sorts of great things uncovered, in addition to a 4-page postscript to his David Whittaker biography, which I bought but I have yet to read. But stuff has come to light since the publication of that book, so he's posted that there as well. So yeah, very, very interesting read. Simon, as you know, Deb, it goes for deep dives with old stuff, and
he is your kind of guy.
Yes, he and I have talked at great lengths over the past few galleys now about stuff like this. So. Yeah.
Well, I like that they're going to be adding this material into future publications as well. So it's not, I mean, it's great that you can download it, but anybody buying the book in the next reprint will be able to have this as well, which I appreciate, because I like adding much more than I like withdrawing or taking away.
That's true. We're complaining about stuff being removed and taken out and airbrushed and...
history is history. Like, it sucks, but if... a person has turned out to be a not good individual, but I really have issues with the BBC. Like you said, airbrushing, removing or editing things years after it's been done. Like, it's just the integrity of media is already in question thanks to AI and deep fakes and everything else. So I don't know, my inner archivist has a little bit of a moment when things like that happen.
I know. I just love it that, something about a writer from 60 years ago and we're still finding stuff out about it to be put into a postscript of a book about, I just like, it's constant. The archaeology of history, be it actual proper history or BBC TV history, is still just an ongoing thing. It's kind of nice. So, well, that's our news. That's our news for now. We'll come back after the break, though. But right now, let's have a listen to noted Doctor Who author. Of course, he wrote 2 TV stories, Remembrance of the Daleks and Battlefield, and several other books, and of course has found great fame and renown with the Rivers of London series. But here is Warren's chat with Ben Aaronovitch from Glasgow.
Hello everybody, we're here with, I'm not going to say his name, he's going to clarify a big controversy, author and novelist.
Well, there's 2 ways of saying my name. Okay, there's the anglicized way, and then there's a sort of fake Russian way. According to my brother, it's a fake Russian way of saying it. And so, most of my life I've said Ben Aaronovitch. And this is the way he's generally pronounced. It's the way my brother pronounces it. He's on Radio 4, so he should know it. However, quite a long time ago, I found that when I said Aaronovitch down the phone, I ended up being people looking up my name under R, or sending me documents to R. Aaronovitch or A. Aaronovitch, and I found that if you pronounce it in the kind of vaguely fake Slavic way, which is Aaronovitch, right, people don't make any mistakes about it.
Okay.
So I started using Aaronovitch, right, and of course, I'm fine with it either way, but the only one I don't like is Aaronovitch, because I don't know where the A is coming from. Well, the hell. But apparently, that's actually a very legitimate pronunciation.
Well, as a filthy North American, that's probably the way I'd end up saying, just because we pronounce everything.
But also, no, from a Slavic point of view, from certain Slavic languages, you would actually pronounce that as Aaronovitch, like that.
Right.
So I'm confused, but I don't like Aaronovitch because it just makes me sound weird.
Fair enough.
As a purely personal kind of thing, I prefer Aaronovitch or Aaronovitch.
Okay.
Those are the things I prefer.
Yeah, we got it. It's documented.
That they spell it correctly is the only thing I really ask for. And don't put an A in it.
Oh, okay, no problem.
More A's. Got enough A's already.
So I guess next, what I'd like to talk about is sort of your journey of fandom. So I assume you're a Doctor Who fan long before.
Well, this is the thing, right? I thought I was a fan, but I didn't know what a fan was. You've got to remember, this is the far-off days of the late 70s, early 80s, right?
I was there.
And for me, a fan was someone who made sure they were in at 5:15 to watch it on a Saturday, right? That was a fan. I hadn't been exposed to fandom at that point.
You were blessed.
Otherwise, I wouldn't have described myself as a fan, right? So I liked it and I watched it, in the same way that I liked to watch UFO or liked to watch Stingray, when I was a kid. There was something that I made a point of watching, okay, and had knowledge of, and because it's science fiction and there was bugger all science fiction in television at that time, it's science fiction. So, but I wouldn't describe myself as a fan in the kind of sense that fan is now used, right? Or even actually as fan is used then, but I just didn't know it was used that way. Because we weren't all interconnected in those days, so different. So, I'm hesitant to say I was a fan. I was a science fiction fan, I think it's fair to say, because that's mostly what I read, science fiction and crime. But I wasn't specifically a Doctor Who fan. I don't like Wagner enough to be an 80s Doctor Who fan, to be honest.
But you ended up writing 80s Doctor Who, so how did you get to that point?
Well, television is quite difficult to get into. The thing is that when you're trying to get into something like television or noveling or something like that, it looks really insurmountably hard. While you're trying to do it, and then once you've done it, it looks really easy, and you think, wow, that wasn't nearly as hard as I was expecting it to be, even though you spent like 10 years trying to do it. So what I did is that in those days, the way you introduced yourself into writing as a novice was you found a script editor. This was giving me. You watched television, you looked at who the script editor was, because in the BBC and ITV, script editors had much more power in those days. Right? So you looked to see who the script editor was, and then you submitted work directly to them.
Okay.
Not necessarily about their show, but something to show that you can write. So you found someone who was making stuff that was kind of like what you wanted to make, right? And then you sent them stuff. So I submitted to a producer called Caroline, a script editor Caroline, and about to become a producer. And I submitted a spec script. It wasn't written for something. Spec script called The Dole Q Detective. And she read it. She liked it. She said, "What do you like?" I said, "I like science fiction and crime." So she said, write a script for Doctor Who, write a script for a show called Rockless Babies.
Okay.
Which was a detective police drama. And I'll make sure the script editors, because they all worked in the same building, I'll make sure the script editors get a copy of that script. So that's what I did. I wrote one for Doctor Who and for Rockless Babies. The Doctor Who, and both the script editors of both Doctor Who and Rockless Babies, that's Andrew Cartmel and another guy, I don't think we're working in television anymore, liked it and said, we'd like to consider you for the next season, but Rockless Babies got cancelled, so Doctor Who didn't. So that's how I ended up writing for Doctor Who. And I was talking over with Andrew, going, "Oh, do this, do that, what would that be like?" And then one day he phoned me up and went, "Do you want to write the Dalek story?"
Yeah, he did the Crown Jewels.
Yeah, it's completely out of the blue. Yeah, because the Dalek story is like... because of the villains, they are the only ones that, that have got kind of, in a way, an independent life of their own in those days, right? In that there was like Dalek comic strips.
Right, of course.
And Terry Nation had been trying to get a Dalek TV series off the ground for years and years and years. So he said, "Do you want to write the Dalek one?" I went, "Yeah, okay." That was the first ever script I'd written professionally. and that was the Dalek thing. That's how I ended up doing it. And for me, it was a wonderful experience because I was too stupid
This is a common refrain amongst writers. I didn't know what I didn't know.
Yeah, you don't know what you don't know, and so therefore it's only when you have a horrible crash or your script fails to work that you realise there's more to this writing stuff than boundless enthusiasm and self-confidence.
Yeah.
And so therefore that's what I did. I was, I'll do this then, and then that's what I did. So that was me. That's how I ended up writing. Then I found out what fandom was.
Yeah.
Right? But by that time, I was going to. I was a guest. I was turning up as guest, and so you have this movement. It's very strange, weird, semi-fame. Like you're not really famous,
but amongst a narrow group of people,
very narrow group of people know who you are, which is a very, for me, it was a very strange thing to happen. And then it just kind of progressed from there. That's how I ended up writing for Doctor Who.
And you did Battlefield afterwards, presumably.
Battlefield, yes. Well, I mean, by that time Andrew Cartmel liked my stuff. He liked what I did. John liked my stuff. He liked what I did. So they paid me. They were, and I would have done another season after that had there been another season. I don't know how many. Or we were talking about maybe me taking over a script editing stuff because John really wanted to move on. You see, right? So therefore. We were looking at maybe bringing another producer, but this is all above my pay grade. I'm just hanging around the building because I'm a bored, lonely guy and I just hang around the building. So that's why I picked it up and got involved with all the other writers. And we formed a little clique, who was the clique of writers. But that was so that was how I ended up with that.
And you proposed a few stories one of which became a book. I think at least one of them came a book, Transit, but maybe you could talk about those scripts that weren't made in...
you need to make a distinction between a serious proposal, a non-serious proposal, and a kind of, wouldn't it be cool if we did this, right? So, Transit was a serious proposal, right, or much smaller scale than the book. Right?
Of course, yeah.
Okay, but... It didn't really work as a TV script. It didn't work as a TV script. So that Transit got shelved for that reason. For the next story, we basically were going to reintroduce a new companion. That was the plan. But we're going to have like 2 ace stories and 2 new companion stories. And part of it was this idea that we had that it was because it was Sylvester, right? Sylvester found all the expositions you had hard work, right? Because as the Doctor, you're on the screen all the time, and you have to do the bulk of over here, the burger here.
And all the doctors are like,
all the doctors have this problem, right? And the Sylvester is a particular problem. He's not that kind of an actor. He's not a learn-along speech kind of actor. He's a much more physical, reactive kind of actor. You've got to give him stuff to bounce off rather than... So we thought, well, we have to have somebody else say it. So we all went, Sophie can do the exposition. But you have to have a reason why Sophie is doing the exposition. And the idea that we came up with was that the Doctor is teaching Sophie, I'm teaching Ace, right? And ultimately, and this wasn't fixed, so I don't want you to think like this is like a definite plan for these things. But the vague idea we had was that he was planning to introduce her into Time Lord society.
Oh, okay.
Right?
Is that where that comes from?
That to regenerate Time Lord society by making Ace a Time Lord.
Right.
Basically training Ace a Time Lord, and it was going to have two functions in that. One, it would regenerate the society by introducing literally new blood. But also would show that being a Time Lord is nothing to do with like being galavanting. It's got to do. It's a state of mind rather than a anyone can do it, and so therefore this whole hierarchical structure. I don't think we were thinking that deeply by the way. We were just thinking, cool. Well, now she can do all the exposition, right? And she can do all the exposition, and we have a reason for it, right? So we have a reason for her to do all the exposition, and so that's what we did. If you look in, watch Ghostland, you can see that in action. Where the Doctor's going, what do you see? You remember she comes out of the TARDIS, what do you see? She says it's Victorian, what else? He's constantly asking you questions about what do you see, what is this, what are the conclusions you make from that? And that meant that she did all the exposition, but you got a good dynamic between Sylvester and Sophie, and that worked very well, and we were going to kind of extend that, and that's where we were going to go with it. So all I had was basically a riff on the end into Star Trek 2, where you have all the people, you have basically a starship, and you go round all the people in this starship now, where we're going, and you pan around, and Ace is in the bloody captain's chair, right, in a uniform, and she goes, oh, we'll do this, and they go for it. She walks down the corridor, opens the door, and the Doctor is in the cabin. She goes, this is not going to work, right? We had no idea why. She was in this. That was just like literally, you have like scenes you'd like to see, like Ace beating up a Dalek with a baseball bat. That's like see, and sometimes they go in and sometimes they don't. And the other one was the introduction of the new companion. Right. She was going to be a Catbird, right? She was going to be a Catbird from. Her father was going to have been a proper gangster, right? Who'd sent his daughter off to posh school because we wanted like some of the Ace qualities, but we didn't want to do like a copy of Ace. So we wanted some of that. So what had happened is he'd sent her off to finishing school in Switzerland, but she had actually hung out with all his old like safe cracking. And she was like interested in that life, not the life of a debutante. And so we have this thing. Looks into a country house, walks in a party going on, possibly fancy dress, so we were feeling budget conscious. Walks in, she goes upstairs, finds a safe, cracks the safe, opens the safe, and the Doctor's inside and he goes, what took you so long? but again, we didn't know what was going to happen. I know there was stuff I wasn't enrolled in. Like I think they were going to do a Martian story, right, with the Ice Warriors and things like that. But we never got round to actually plotting those out. We were still at the kind of, oh, that's cool, let's throw that into the pot kind of stage. And then the series got cancelled because we knew it was cancelled, before we shot the last scene, so we knew it wasn't coming back.
One question I've always had about Transit, and this might just because I read it when I was reading a bunch of cyberpunk stuff, saying it was big at the time. Was it intended to be cyberpunk or not? Because it felt that way to me, but that could just be my 19-year-old mind.
I mean, look, when you're a starting writer, you tend to just go, oh, you get hold of, like, you read something, and, oh, I want to be just like that. So that was me, like, oh, I want to be William Gibson. So I wrote...
There are worse things to be.
I wrote kind of William Gibson-y, If you look at some of my other stuff, it's very influenced by Dune and things like that, but it's just what's kind of like in the zeitgeist. And remember, that was the middle of the zeitgeist. We were at peak William Gibson.
Yeah, and cyberpunk was just tipped up at the time.
So, and what people don't understand is the cyberpunk, it's not technology and stuff, although it's quite important. What made, say, Neuromancer or particularly Count Zero different was the use of language. Was different from the way science fiction had been written. It was a new, there had been stylists like Bester and Brunner and people like that who would do these interesting things. Ballard, who would do interesting things with prose. But he was the first person that really made it sing. I mean, when you read Burning Chrome I read Burning Chrome in Omni in I think like 1979 or something like that. And you picked it up, you got to remember we didn't have computers in our house those days.
Well, I know.
And you pick it up and you go, that's what the future is going to look like. And it starts with, It was a hot night when we were playing the
Sky Television channel.
No, that's the
right.
The Moths are batting themselves to death on the globe lights.
Yeah.
I mean, his openings are great. I mean, I have a mid catalogue of his openings, and I steal them.
As one should.
You know, they set a slam dog on Max's Tail in Delhi.
Right.
You know, they're just good openings, right? They're just good. The way he writes is very good. The way he talks about it, especially Count Zero, where he's actually Count Zero is, I think, stylistically and plot-wise his best book. All flows together really well. It's like all the things came together. I mean, I liked a lot of Mozart's stuff, and he matured as a writer, but that particular one is one of my favourite.
It's really good at non-explaining stuff, and then your brain does all the work for you.
Yeah, and it's just really good, but also just mood, right? What we call mood. He was really good at that. So I wanted some of that stuff, as you do as a young man. And then, like, if you read the also people, that's we go, oh, Ian M. Banks, let's do Ian M. Banks.
Yeah.
You know, you do that until you find your own voice. You tend to do that with other people. And I was very lucky that people kept on giving me money to learn how to write.
How'd you get from the show to New Adventures? I mean, a lot of people did.
Yes, logical progression. W.H. Allen were in the habit of offering the novelization to whoever wrote the script. He could turn it down, and then, you know, I'm sort of a dick, but do his usual magic.
Yeah.
But what we didn't, because A, we wanted the money, and B, people don't pay you to write. So I went and did it, and again it was like, I don't know where I'm just going to go. So it's like pulling bits out of Gibson and Herbert and God knows, you know, just about everywhere. And just writing like mad, like, I'm going to write it like this. It's going to be like, you know, you just do this stuff because no one's told you can't do it. And they liked it, and apparently, and I don't know for sure, and nobody referred to me, but I've heard that Remembrance made them think maybe we can do something with this franchise.
Yeah.
Because W.H. Allen was bought by Virgin Books.
Right.
Virgin Books and looked at it, piece of gravel evidence it was. Looked at it and thought maybe we can do something. Well, I wasn't the only one doing that, by the way, but I think mine was in particular. Because I know that, you know, that Platt wrote his in a particularly novelistic style as well. He was a stylist. So we went, okay, let's do that. And they said, do you want to write? And I said, okay. And they said, we want an adult. So I wrote an adult Doctor Who, which went down as well as you'd expect. So
it was a different time.
Well, I mean, in those days, I mean, that was a period where I had, in all polls, I had like the worst and the best instrument. It's fact.
Yeah.
I don't know how I quite managed to do that. There you go. But you just got to write the book you think is right. And then you get on with it.
And mea culpa, I'd never heard of Jupiter Moon before I read about it. What is Jupiter Moon, and how did you get involved with that?
Well, that was just me looking for work. And they were having trouble. It was like a soap opera. They were having trouble because they had a lot of quite good soap opera writers, but they didn't have anyone who'd done any science fiction. So I just came along and went, this is how you... Again, masked by my invincible armor of ignorance, I went in and said, how you doing like this? And they liked it. And it never occurred to me they wouldn't have me back. But apparently that was, and that was good. That was the most fun I've had in a year.
None.
In terms of my earnings went up and stuff like that. That was quite good. And then I had a career crash after that. But what was that? That was a good period. I really look back on that with fondness. Jupiter Moon. But again, I didn't know what I was doing. See, by the time I was writing Rivers of London, I knew what I was doing.
That's what I was going to ask. Like, you knew by that point, you learned all this other stuff.
I knew, you learn stuff. You just learn from doing, and I knew how to write by it. I knew how to do the tricky bit of writing, which is how to write when your enthusiasm and your invincible armor of ignorance is worn away a bit.
Yeah.
And that's what really separates the kind of novelist from the wannabe novelist, is you go from I can do this because I don't care what anyone says to, right, how do I fix this work problem?
Yeah.
How do I deal with this? Oh God, I can't get my character from point A to B, what do I do? Or that terrible moment you realise you're going to have to jump the last 2 chapters because you're stuck. You've gotten down on the wrong trouser at a time and you've got to go back up, down the right trouser. Stuff like that, which you don't know until you've done it quite a lot. You can be guided and you can be encouraged, but you cannot be taught. creative right.
You just got to do it.
You've just got to do it.
And that's what you did to start with, for purposes of Legend. You were working at, I'm going to get the name wrong, Weatherstones?
Waterstones.
Yeah, sorry.
Waterstones is the pub.
Yeah, yes. It's easy to mix them up if you're an ignorant North American. But you're working at Waterstones, and you just did this thing on spec, essentially, like most books, I guess. And then it's been a roaring success since then.
Yeah. Surprising everyone, by the way, including him, right? Me, my account. It just surprised everyone. Its success really did take everyone by surprise. It was quite a small print run. I was going to be a mid-list author. I was ready for mid-list. Science fiction author. I was going to come to these things, and I was going to be mid-list and hustle and sell my books at conventions, and I had a whole plan.
Yeah, and then it got dashed by success.
And then it was dashed by success, wonderfully.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't want to do any of these things, but I was prepared. I mentally prepared myself for that life. And then I could give up my job and I could just laze around, basically, and write books, which is the best kind of life.
How much of Doctor Who, if any, influenced the Rivers of London? Because to me, it's more like Hitchhiker's Guide meets a detective novel.
It's hard to say. It's quite a lot of Hitchhiker's Guide is quite a lot of Dear Doctor Who, and vice versa.
Yeah. Directly.
But also, as Pratchett said, right, me and we're all dipping out of the same pot. So, I'm dipping out of the same pot as Pratchett and Doug.
Right, yes.
Right, and of course I'd grown up listening to Doug. I was in bed listening to the original TV radio series.
Yeah, I remember
when it first came out, and I remember falling out of my bed. I was laughing so hard, I went out of my bed. And, beware of the liquid hanging in the sky exactly the way bricks don't. All that stuff was like, a lot of that is very influential, but a lot of that is the same absurdist comedy that goes all the way back to Lewis Carroll. So it all goes back to other writers.
Right.
So
it's very British.
Yeah, well, I don't know, because it's my culture, so therefore I can't tell what's British. Because since, the keystone of British culture is we steal stuff from other people, right?
True.
For all I know, came from Mark Twain, and we nipped it, okay?
Possible, yeah.
Mark Twain did an absurdist comedy. He done the Connecticut Mike Danke in King Arthur's Court, right? Which has got absurdist elements. You just steal things. And I'd read a lot of science fiction, and I'd read a lot of crime, and I'd read a lot of other slightly more literary works. Although I'm not very big on literary work. My son is so much better read than I am. And you just put them in a pot, and you just stir the pot, and then you write. That's the best way I can describe it. And you got to not make the mistake of thinking influences come from the same medium. There's a tremendous amount of something called Rent-A-Ghost in there.
Yeah, nice. Okay, yeah.
Okay, which no American has ever heard of.
I have heard of it. I don't know a lot more about it. I'm not American either.
Most British people that heard of it. Are you Canadian?
Canadian, yes.
Okay. There were a lot of weird 70s children's programs, children's programs. I think all the science fiction writers were basically writing for children's programs. So you get a lot of really things like Ace of Wands and the Tomorrow People, and that feeds in, possibly more than the science fiction, the crime books sound about it. Okay, weirdly, that first-person perspective thing, that's just my... You see, what I think I bring is the voice. Right, the voice caught me by surprise. I sat down, I wrote what is essentially the first chapter, and I went, "Me, this will sell," because I had that voice, but I don't know where the voice is coming. I can't trace the voice.
Yeah, maybe you should.
Right?
Maybe
it's. I mean, because it's a classic, cynical first-person narrator, but it's not really Sam Spade. It's not. It's not the same. It's got elements like all probably crime test, but it's not. There's a little bit of which I didn't even realise at the time. It's got a little bit of Bertie Wooster in there as well.
Okay, yeah.
And then there's that whole thing where he just goes off into spirals of his distraction and all that kind of stuff.
Now, I know with TV there's NDAs and a whole bunch of things you can't talk about, but it is known that they want to make this into a TV show, or at least they did at one point.
Yeah, they.
Yeah, the media.
They. Yes, the
powers that be.
Yeah. It's been pretty much it's been continuous options and disappointments since before it came out.
Not an uncommon story amongst writers.
Yeah, I mean and fortunately it doesn't matter in the sense I don't need the money.
Right.
So I was tempted to take the money and run. Didn't. So as a result, it's much trickier to make. It's an expensive show based on a book that's not big in America, right? So that's a handicap in terms of...
But it's huge here.
Yeah, but it's not. It's not huge.
Right. Big, let's put it that way.
Big, yeah. I'm what they call a tentpole author. I find hilarious. But I mean, I'm not there with people like Rankin and that.
That's not bad company to keep.
Yeah, well, Rankin sells more than me, but if you look at Brandon Sanderson worldwide sales, and it's just embarrassing. Okay, Brandon Sanderson just sells billions of books. So I'm big, but I'm not so big. But it's got potential as a TV series. Right. I think the reason why people keep coming back to it. But it's very expensive because it's set in central London.
Supernatural.
Well, the Supernatural is not as expensive as filming in central London, right?
Yeah.
That's really expensive. The Supernatural, these days, Supernatural's dead cheap compared to the filming as in London. Whenever you actually do real places now in a place like London or New York or Los Angeles, that's what the expenses start whacking up.
Yeah.
It's the... Cruz, apart from his salary, is spending most of his money going the wrong way around the bloody Arc de Triomphe, because that's a really expensive thing to do, right?
Yes.
To really go to the Arc de Triomphe and then go the wrong way around in the middle of Paris, right? God knows the logistics. I have no idea how they managed to.
I live in Vancouver, so they do all the cheap stuff.
Yeah, because Vancouver,
it's a lot cheaper. Yeah.
I hear they have to dirty it up though.
A little bit. Yeah. I keep stumbling into sets and going, "Get the hell out of my way!"
But I mean, you can see that. Well, someone said there's 3 versions of Vancouver. I'm telling you, there's things that are actually set in Vancouver.
Very few of them. Yeah.
Things that are set in a North American city.
A lot of them. Yeah.
Right. That's most of them.
Yeah.
And then things where they pretend it's New York.
And there's a lot of that too. Toronto is more New York than Vancouver.
Oh, Vancouver. No, San Francisco, Vancouver.
Yeah, and Seattle. Because it looks just like Seattle.
Yeah, so that's quite funny, but clean right now. Toronto, and there's they have to dirty up the alleyways.
Am I ashamed of that? I don't know. So, forgetting about the TV show for a second, if it ever happens.
I call it Schrodinger's TV series. At some point, we will open a box, and then it'll either be a TV series in there or they won't. But until that time happens, there's nothing you can do except scale move it.
Right.
That's what I do.
So I imagine some people listening to this are probably fans of the book series. What can you tell them in terms, we have a lot of British listeners, what can you tell them in terms of what's coming up, a hint as to what's coming up?
Well, I don't have to hint what's coming up. I can tell you what's coming up because I've already done it. In September, there's a novella. Okay, that's the Masquerade's Spring. I can actually say the title, thank God. That's going to be Nightingale in New York in the 1920s.
Okay.
And it's roughly and light and fun. Well, I liked it anyway. I enjoyed it. One of the most fun I've had, she's had writing. And then the next year, summer, probably July 2025. The next book, which they haven't released. They didn't used to do this. I used to be able to tell people the titles of books. Yeah, I can't. Right? It's very frustrating for me. The next book, which is set in Scotland.
Okay. Where we're at right now.
It's set in Aberdeen.
Close.
The Ouija's would have something to say about that being the same as there.
Again, ignorant to America.
But it's just in Aberdeen, and that's a full-length Rivers of London novel with Peter. Quite sort of Abigail in that one because I don't know. I just needed someone to run around in other parts. So it's about 2/3 Peter and about 1/3 Abigail. And then after that, I'm working on stuff. There'll be more books. The Rivers of London, there's no end to the Rivers of London. People go, when are you going to finish it? Never. Are you mad? I have to, I haven't finished decorating my house yet. I still enjoy writing them. I still lie in bed going, oh, and then that happens, and that. Until that stops, then the book series continues. See, that's the thing. If I get to the point where I'm going, oh God, no, I don't want to do anything. I don't have any more stories to tell with those characters. But they're such great characters. I mean, speaking of myself, I shouldn't really say that, but to me, they're great characters because they just keep going, oh, I don't like you this. I go, what? No. You see, so...
Well, if you don't love them, nobody else does.
Yeah, I love them, and I want to write more about them, And maybe at some point everyone will go, yeah, babe, do something else. But at the moment, I'm enjoying it.
Well, thank you for talking to us today.
That's all right.
Well done, Warren. Thanks, Ben. Thank you, Ben Aaronovitch, on the podcast.
I can't wait to have listened. I haven't actually listened to it
No.
as we record this.
we did not listen to it live, folks. Peek behind the curtain.
No, but I'm really excited because, I mean, in addition to the fact that he's a Doctor Who alum, the Rivers of London series, which you mentioned before you threw to the interview, it's so good. I really love it. I've read the first couple of books at least twice because it's one of those series where it just goes on. And, you know, I read the first book and really liked it. And then the second one, and then there was a break. And then the third one came out and I was like, well, I better reread these first ones a couple of and
now you're really behind.
I am really behind because I think it was either around the time I moved or when I was studying for the citizenship exam or something. I just got distracted from books kind of in general. And I am several books behind. And while
how many are out now?
Ooh, it's a lot because I feel like I dropped off at 5, and I know that there have been a few since then. And I remember some of the big. It's a series that is kind of an urban fantasy. There's magic and sort of a magic police presence, which is less propaganda than you might expect. And yeah, there's each book is its own mystery, and like one of them centers around the London Underground, which I just think is I love stuff about the subway, and but there's also an overarching sort of arc that runs through many of them, and I remember that was getting really exciting right around the time that I lost track. So I need to refresh my memory.
I just pulled up his Wikipedia page, and I've only read the first 2, and I'm like, oh. And again, it was the same thing. Like, you know, there was a break, and it didn't pick up the third one, but I remember really liking him. It's up to 13 with novels and novellas.
Yeah.
So there is a lot of Rivers of London to catch up with.
And they made comics of at least some of it. I don't know how many of those there were, but I think those came out from Titan. So. Yeah, lots of good Ben Aaronovitch stuff out there. So I'm excited to listen to Warren's interview, which I'm sure is great.
It was great. It was excellent. Ben sounds lovely. I've seen him on, I've watched him over the years on DVD extras and stuff too. So, yeah.
Warren, what an interviewer.
Yeah. He's great.
Yeah, getting it all out there. So, I hope you enjoyed that. And as I said, most likely Paul Cornell and Liz Miles talking about Big Finish stuff and other stuff will be on next week, when I think we're getting the band back together. I think Warren and Chris will both be on that. But Erika, obviously, I'm always happy to have you on the podcast.
There are very few podcasts I will set an alarm to wake up for. This is one of them. But, you know, oh my gosh, my mom's going to be so upset. We were trying to figure out a time to reschedule our family Zoom chat so I can talk to my family back in Wisconsin. And she's like, how about a weekend morning? And I was just like flat out, no. But you know what? RFS is like, I do it, once a year, twice a year, every month having to set an alarm to get up. So sorry, Mom. No.
Yeah. But Deb, it's been great. It's been great talking to you again. I'm sure you'll be at Gallifrey 1, so we'll at least see you in person there. And I don't know where else before then, but Verity is sort of on a different schedule these days, with no longer doing the weekly slog that so many other of us do. How's it going over there at Chateau Verity?
You know, it has been really good for us to podcast, take a break, to podcast. We've got some fun things coming up in early fall, late summer, early fall, and it's been a challenging year for some Verities. So I think that being able to take care of the things that we all needed to take care of and not having the guilt associated with not putting out a quality product or feeling like putting out a podcast was just one more thing on the to-do list. And you never want to feel that way. Like, you always want to bring joy and enthusiasm to Verity. And I think with all the personal things that were happening sort of behind the scenes this year, this schedule really, really worked out good for us. And we're all energized and excited to come back. So we have time to kind of deal with all these things. So yeah, the summer hiatus has been really good. It's been a busy summer for a lot of us, and we're really looking forward to getting back and being back in everybody's ears again.
Hear, hear.
Hear, hear, indeed. Well, I look forward to that, Deb. Also, just late breaking, a podcast I was on, I recorded a few weeks ago, has just dropped while we were recording this. The Who's He podcast with Phil Cannon. I was on doing a commentary for Boom on that. So there you go. There's another thing, another podcast. I know, but watching Doctor Who. So links to the show notes so you can listen to that. But anyway, lovely to talk to you both. But it's time to go away now and get some coffee in Erika. So until next time, I am Stephen in Edmonton.
Erika in Edmonton.
And Deb in Philadelphia.
So long for now.